Hi guys, welcome to another video. So today we're talking about how should we read the news of the housing market. So there are many news going on every day, every second. There are some posts or in Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. So how should we determine the news and how are the news related to our strategy, our housing planning or strategies, okay? All right. So today there are three phases or three categories of the news that we really have to distinguish, and we really have to categorize them into three categories so that we will understand thoroughly the housing market, what the news is talking about, if the news is true or not, so that we can have a correct strategy for ourselves. So first of all, again, thank you for people of you guys watching my video, Canada's housing market meltdown. I really want to make another video about United States and UK and Australia, right? So especially in US, there the East Coast or West Coast, and some people asking me about Canada further away like Alberta, stuff like that. But I really want to make sure our fundamentals and foundation was really solid before we move on. So this is one of the video that we really have to look at, and we really have to rethink about what and how we should interpret and understand the news going on in front of us every single day or even every second, because there are some news that are BSing and there are some news that are unrelated. There are some news that are treasury, but we really don't understand where how should we data mine, right? So first of all, welcome to our education center in Hong Kong again. So if you been wondering what's behind me, it's a treadmill. Actually, it's a bike, and something below me. I'm sitting in a bench, which is for workout, and this is a smaller room for a smaller class. And if we open the petition, it's a wider class that we can invite 200 students to our courses. So this is in my my center. So if you want to see more, I have some games, board games, and stuff sitting outside. So yeah, that's basically what I do. So in my Asia channel, I started with stocks, and then I talk about properties, and I now talk about housing markets and business. And also I have a vlog which half of them is English, because all both of my sons speak in English fluently, and my wife speaks English also. So anyway, my background is from North America, so again, that doesn't matter, right? Because for me, we really don't have to understand the area or specifically the house that you're living in, how the price is determined. First, we should first determine the trend and the economy. That's the key question, okay? Everything comes next, okay? So there are three categories that we really have to concern about. This is short-term, mid-term, and long-term, longer-term news. Okay, so what do I mean? So there's something that will be influencing the stock markets or housing market in only short term, okay? So if those news are about, if shorter news, we can talk about something like that, because in the comments below, I understand that the dislike ratio is kind of high because I'm really picky. The dislike ratio is usually below 10%, alright? So I really appreciate people who like this video. So for those who challenge this video, I really genuinely appreciate your comments, right? Because I really want to have some kind of conflict so that we can find out something that is really true and factual facts that that we want to find out. So this environment is really good. So some comments like BS, it will pop soon. Come on, that's because I guess I pinned the comment at the top, because we really have to separate our personal feelings, personal situation with the economy. So now again, I'm talking about the economy. From now on, you understand how you should read news. So in short terms, you can look at the US dollars. You can look at the Japanese yen. You can look at the Swiss franc, and you can look at the gold. So these are the there are 4 or 5 assets that when people panic, they will buy. Okay, so you will see in short terms, capital will go away. For example, when Donald Trump people are trying to kick Donald Trump out of the president. And I have no idea why the Russian Putin, he suddenly said, oh, I can prove that Donald Trump before the election, he didn't find me. Well, that's that. What is that? So the US dollar stumbled, right? So that means money is going out of United States. So in short terms, housing market will have a short-term effect. So because housing market is not as the liquidity is not as high as stock market, right? So the influence will be lower. So you will see firsthand is the stock market. So this is something short-term, and even so, you can, in the shorter term, you can look at 10 or 30 years U.S. Treasury bond yield. Okay, so the if it goes down, it's kind of bad. And also, you can go to investing.com. Investing.com is full of important information and economic data that you can look for that will affect the economy or probably housing in short terms. For example, the non-farm data, or the ADP non-farm, or the leading index, and home started, home sales, stuff like that. That's really really short-term thing. Especially every Thursday, you have initial jobless claims. This data is pretty important. That affects leading index, that affect the US dollar and treasury bonds. So all kind of difficult stuff, all this difficult stuff, they're all short terms, okay? So I'm not going to start there yet, but if you want to go down the road with me, I will and review that one by one. But again, I appreciate your comments, but something like that is difficult. First, it is about short term only, right? Housing market is never about short terms, okay? So ignore this news if you are buying a house for, especially for living, right? It's not for investment or speculating, right? So the second point is, in general, I see your backgrounds and the your comments. You're pretty knowledgeable, but I'm not sure we is soon enough to get into this detail of looking at all this difficult data, and also it doesn't influence the housing market in long term. Okay, so midterm, what are the data that we have look at for midterms? For example, M1, M2, or even the debt stage, treasury bond yields. Those are for midterms, right? They are not about short-term news that people will take the money away of US or the country or get back in. It's something like that, and interest rate and stuff like that. Is really about midterms, okay? So, and also supply and demand, stuff like that. Most of the news in the housing market, in the news, most of them are midterm. It's not long term. What is long term? Long term is a bull market and a bear market. This cycle will last between 5 to 10 years. So eventually, you should make such an important decision just twice every 10 years. All right. So it's about there's a bubble or no bubbles. That's it. Okay. If there's no bubble and it's your first house, go ahead. Okay. If there's no bubble and it's not your first house, you can still go ahead, but you really have to speculate, and towards the end of the bull market, you really want to sell your extra houses, maybe. And if there's a bubble, then that is the almost near the end of bull market, and which I've left the other video that I talk about was bull and bear market. It's all about interest rate cycle. That is the first simplest data that you can look for. I have also 6 signals that did determine about bull, that whether or not we are in bull or bear market, in expansion or recession. Because again, housing market, buying a house is a long-term decision. It's not about midterm supply and demand. Now, look at the news. I've searched through the news and I clicked through a few of them. We can do some practice. For example, this is scary. Real estate CEO, record low housing inventory is freaking us out. So it freaks me out also, because why? When supply is lower than demand, oh man, the price is going to go up, right? Freaking me out, meaning that maybe I haven't read all the news, but by the title, you really have to start to categorize the news, right? This is about midterm influence, right? So this is about maybe talking about the price will go up or stuff like that, but that is about supply and demand. So in the last video, in the viral Canada's housing market meltdown, I talk about that. even though that corporation is going down, they can also sell their all their assets to banks and stuff like that before they call the loans, right? So I talk about that specifically. So please watch my whole videos, okay? So now this is I talk about if the supply and demand is mismatched, the price will fluctuate, right? But ultimately, when people have more and more cash and people can still pay their debts, and not to the extent that the interest rate is so high that the bubble will burst. That the bubble's bursting is not a problem. The bubble will burst that me and the country and all the countries cannot pay off the money. That is the recession. So now I admit that the prices is high, right? The valuation is high, right? So it's not to the extent that is too terrible compared to all the bubbles in the past to make a recession. That's my point. That's the long term, and the long term is clear and is fact. It's just one or few data. Okay, so the midterm there are more data. Okay, supply and demand M1, M2. For the shorter terms, there are all kinds of data that is not really necessary for housing investment. Okay, so let's practice another news. So this one, housing market stays heated in Midland County. Oh man, that is not a news at all. So stay heated and the prices has breaking record high. That means that you have to do a homework now. But the price doesn't mean doesn't tell us about valuation, right? Even the valuation is about midterm trends. Okay, so the price. Let me say that if the price today you think is expensive, right? If the housing market goes up another 50%, is today cheap or expensive, right? Price is not about valuation. Not the first thing. Price is part of the valuation formula. That's it, right? So we really have to look at what is in intrinsic value inside the housing market. So now this is the funniest. So let me tell you this way, if you're looking at mid or long term, around 20 or 30% of the news are really BS, right? So if you're only looking at long-term investment, 70 or 90% of the news are unrelated. Please separate clearly your strategies, or else you will fall into traps of short-term and speculations, which I'm not sure you're going to do that, right? So overvalue houses and too much home construction, meaning that Canada has a 30% chance of housing bust within 2 years, right? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying have a housing bust within 2 years. That's really close to what had happened in the history after interest rate cycle had started, right? So, but because of home construction and the valuation comparing to the New Zealand and stuff like that is not a proof about recession. It's about midterm, the price may adjust, right? But in a longer term, if it is going down as a recession, now inside Canada, the debts and the mortgage, the interest rate will be at least 3 to 5%. At least that is pure fact in the past decades. Okay, so if under this situation that the interest rate is still low, I know the prices is high, but it's really hard to trigger recession. Recession is something like stocks and housing market will drop for 30 to 70%. Right? So that recession is really, really hard to get. It's not that easy. It's not that you say recession every year and it comes every year. It's once in every 10 years almost. Okay? So not that easy. Something like in 2012, we are talking about the Euro debt crisis and the, if you remember, the United States debt ceilings, right? So those are something that triggers short-term and mid-term adjustment, right? But as soon as US is going to about having the interest rate hike in 2014, the news came out, and 2015 end up in December, and the housing market like boomed, right? So it's really the example is like that. In mid to short term, it can adjust, but eventually it will go up because there's no bubble. If there's no bubble, people will find excuses at the right time and push the housing price up again. So for those of you thinking that housing market will go up forever, that's wrong. there's a limit, there's a deadline, okay? So I'm trying to speak the truth, and I found that few of you really left me a positive comments. I will continue speaking truth and speaking something that is unbiased. I won't, the language is not barrier, the geographic location is not barrier. My research, the research that I pay big time to dig out, I'll try to share to you. What if what I'm saying is true, okay? Because I'm practicing what I found in the past decades, and now I have no classes, nothing for you to join, right? I'm just sharing, okay? Because this is my hobby, just recording videos. So look at my energy, right? So who wakes up with this energy? Because I love seeing you guys, really. I love making a noise, making a sound. That sound is unbiased and fair. I hope that you will support this movement with me, all right? So I'm not sure if will there be any negative comments, but yeah, I'm sure most of them are positive, but even you're really positive, I urge you to think again. I'm a news also, okay? Categorize me also along with all the news, all the posts, all the tweets you have into your own strategy, okay? So if you haven't subscribed to my channel and my Facebook page, please subscribe and like and share to your friends. I'm really that sure about that. You really don't have the time to listen all my stories, all of my bad stories, and all of the examples that I told my friends. Now please cherish each of the video, each of the news, as if there's no tomorrow, right? That nothing can be repeated. So before you make any decision, including waiting, that's a decision, right? That's a cost, okay? Please do your homework, okay, with me, all right? So I'll see you next time. Please leave a comment. I know that's a long video, but I believe that is really valuable. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.